In the heart of Kuala Lumpur, the Petronas Towers, the world's tallest building. A staggering 9% rate of growth over the past 8 years. All of these give the architect of modern Malaysia, Mahathir Mohamad, a pride of place among the world's leading statesmen. It was for this reason that the Malaysian Prime Minister was the recipient of the Jawaharlal Nehru Award this year. When World Report spoke to Dr. Mahathir in Kuala Lumpur, he seemed to dwell on another country of his interest, India.
Well, India has obviously made a lot of progress, particularly in the field of science and technology. But it has to be remembered that this is a country of 900 over million people. It's not easy to get 900 million people to organize and agree on anything substantial. So I think because of the mess of the people, it sort of weighs down India. It makes it difficult for decisions to be made, which will not be a matter for great debates, and debates take time, and because of that, things are delayed.
Well, you did have a historical advantage because during the Cold War, you were with the free market economies, whereas we were a little bit controlled economic models. That gave you an advantage, didn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a matter of choice. As you know, India chose the socialist approach. We decided to retain the free market approach. And it so happens that in the end, the free market has proven to be much more beneficial than the idea of equal distribution of wealth that is espoused by socialism and communism. They just don't work.
Talking of communism, but Vietnam is communist and Vietnam is part of ASEAN today.
Yes, Vietnam is still a communist state, but they have adopted a much more liberal attitude towards the free market economy. And they now accept that there is a need for private sector to participate, and that making profits is not really bad, because profits result in money being plowed back in order to create more jobs and more prosperity for the people.
Imagine you have arrived in India as a consultant. What are the 4 or 5 quick decisions that you would take?
That is a tall order, because it's easy to make a decision in Malaysia with a population of 20 million. It's not so easy to make a decision in India. I think if at all there is anything that should be done, it is not just a decision of one man at the top. It is the whole lot of the people must begin to understand that while giving voice to everyone is good, but it does have a very restraining effect on doing things which needs to be done. So I wouldn't presume to advise anybody, but I would say that bickerings between leaders and others doesn't achieve much really, because to me one leader is as good as another. If you give him a chance, he will do it. Of course, if he is corrupt, you can take action against him. But changing leaders does not improve the situation.
You seem to make a distinction between racial harmony and racial stability. What is the nuance?
Well, sometimes people do not go around embracing each other, but that does not mean that they are going to fight each other. So there is stability in the sense that they are not fighting against each other, but they're not exactly embracing and kissing each other. So there is that slight difference.
Mr. Prime Minister, we've heard a great deal of your vision for 2020. Now, why this 2020? Is it some kind of a arithmetical symmetry that turns you on, or why not 2019 or 2021?
Yeah, this needs to be explained. I'm a doctor, I'm trained as a doctor, and 2020 is the way you measure the eyesight. If you have perfect vision, no astigmatism, no short-sightedness, no long-sightedness, then the result is 2020. You see, so if you have both eyes 2020, then you have perfect vision. Now we are talking about vision, vision of the future. And it so happens that 2020 is perfect for the kind of things we want to do.
I mean, 2020 is a milestone in your framework. But what is your vision for Malaysia of the future?
Firstly, we must know where we are going. We must have a target. Otherwise, you can't work. You don't know the direction. So we determined that we want to become a developed country. But then, what is the definition of a developed country? Is it just a per capita income of 20,000 US? I think that is not adequate. In our view, if a country has attained a level of civilization where people are well off, not necessarily having 20,000 per capita income, but well off, but they have command of all the knowledge that is needed to run the country, to to understand science and its applications, to be able to compete with others on equal terms without having to be protected all the time. All these things added together would be the idea of a developed country that we have. At the same time, we want to maintain our moral values, our beliefs in our religions. As you know, there are many religions in Malaysia. We don't want to discard religion for pure materialism. As you know, in the communist idea, all this religion is an opium to the human community. All you need is exactly the same amount of money that everybody else has, and that will make you happy. And we know that it doesn't make people happy. So they must have their moral values, they must have their enjoyment, pleasures, recreation. At the same time, they must have a good livelihood.
Well, within this 2020 framework, it is like an onion. You keep peeling, like an onion. There's one peel and then the next peel. Within this 2020 is a multimedia super corridor concept. Now, pardon my inadequacy, but I haven't understood exactly what it is that you're about.
Well, everybody has been talking about the information age, and that the information age will change the way we do things, will change business, will change industries, etc. So we try to understand the information age, and it is quite obvious that with so much information coming in, we can only benefit if we know how to use that information. For example, if we are going to trade with a country, we must know what their country produces, what their country needs. That is information. And that kind of information is available only to some people. But now it is available to everyone. You want any knowledge, you can just key in into a computer. You can have access to the knowledge, even to make an atom bomb. So how does it affect us? Obviously, this industry, this information can control a lot of things that we do. It is no longer necessary for us to be on the site in order to do something. This means that we have to make adjustment. But how do we make the adjustment? We need to try things out. So we devise, or we identify this physical place called the super corridor, which is an area 15 by 50 kilometers long that extends from Kuala Lumpur City to the new international airport. And within this area, we give special privileges for companies which are involved in multimedia. They can come in there, they can set up their R&D facilities, they can set up university there, they can train their people there, they can operate their worldwide industries from there. They can devise new ways of entertaining people. using computer to generate all kinds of new entertainment. All kinds of things are coming along because of the new technology that is available. And this transcends national borders. You can no longer control what moves across borders because it's moving through the air. You know, information is moving and you can't say stop at the border. So it's become a multinational thing. But if it becomes multinational, how does it affect our country? And we decide that let's test it out in this area. If it doesn't harm you, okay, we'll allow it to spread out. If it harms you, then we'll have to find out ways how we can stop it from harming you. So it is a test bed for the new technologies involved in the information age.
Mr. Prime Minister, you said just now that information technology transcends national barriers. Does it mean that the old classical notions of the nation state are getting diluted? If that is so, then does it not contradict your own concept of Malay nationalism?
There is a contradiction, but also there is a need to accept the reality of the situation. The whole concept of a nation state where you are jingoistic, everybody else outside your border is insane, frogs or whatever, that is not on. But you need to make sure that your people benefit as much as other people with the new technologies that are coming up. You don't want to be left to be laborers in a world that has made progress because of information technology.
In your general strategy, Mr. Prime Minister, what one tends to notice is this, that just as the Industrial Revolution bypassed us, by your vision of the future, 2020, you are almost planning to bypass the decadent technologies of the West.
We have missed out twice already, the agricultural revolution and then the industrial revolution. And we know from history that we did not rise up to the challenge. We did not understand what is happening. Can we allow ourselves again to be bypassed? So we need to move. Maybe it appears like we are trying to bypass others, but I'm quite sure that others too are thinking of their approach to this matter. Only we have this idea about an experimental, a testbed area where we can try out everything.
Surely, Dr. Mahathir, the purpose of life is the achievement of happiness. And the quality of life is what we are trying to improve. I mean, in your framework, there seems to be this sort of robot-like mechanical framework. How can you have good life without music, poetry, literature, theater, drama? I find that somewhere in all this blueprint, that is missing. Do you accept that criticism?
No, I think music will now be available to more people. Appreciation of music will be something that even the ordinary person, not some elite who will understand. Because now it is much more available. At one time, in the good old days, only few people can go to the theater to listen to good music. Today, you buy a disc and you can listen to the best of the great music of the past, played by the best people in the world, just for a few cents. So it is not true to say that with advance in technology, we are going to lose the culture. In fact, the culture will bloom. Depends upon us, of course. If we want to forget about the culture and think only of the money, that is our own mistake. But if you want to have the arts flourish, it will flourish even more, so that even the poorest of us would be able to enjoy the best art in the world.
Do you have time to enjoy music?
I listen to music sometimes, but I have a lot of other things to do.
Because I read somewhere that among your favorite songs is Frank Sinatra's, the one that Frank Sinatra sang, My Way.
Yes, it was a favorite. I would say that people didn't realize that the song began with And now the end is near. I hope the end is not near yet for me.
Right. So there is a global hierarchy, and this global hierarchy is reflected in the media as well. For instance, CNN. We all watch CNN. Your society watches it, as does ours. The reverse is not true. I mean, Dr. Mahathir is not available to the homes in the United States of America. Does your multimedia corridor can be a fulcrum, a sort of to correct this imbalance? But do you see, how do we correct this imbalance?
We will have to invest and we will have to share. Obviously, a country like Malaysia with only 20 million people cannot influence the whole world. But a group of countries can, through sharing of common facilities, influence the world. In fact, there is no need for us to see the CNN or Star TV because we have our own capacity. Malaysia has launched 2 satellites, and the footprint covers almost the whole of East Asia, including India. I mean, it is available. We can exchange programs. We can help each other develop new contents because now there will be 200, 300 channels. Somebody has to fill in this channel, you know, and the arts are here. The creativity is also here, and the variety is here. This is what I promoted when I was in California. In Malaysia, we have 3 very major cultures: the culture of India, the culture of China, and the culture of the Malay Indonesian people. And these people want to see things that reflect their life, not American life. And if the Americans come here and learn about this and produce, then you are always going to listen to them again. But there is no reason why we cannot produce our own. In Malaysia, we see Indian movies all the time.
Well, in this space of 50 kilometers by 15, give a corner to the Indian cinema industry and they will come and do wonders.
Yes, sure. Because now computers will generate films without the need of actors. So they can sit there without they can take a picture of Bachchan and put there and make him say things which he never said. You know, you saw the picture Forrest Gump, where this man shook the hands of the president who was already dead, you see. But it is now possible to take an image and make that image do everything without his being involved at all.
So India is now a full dialogue partner with ASEAN. What is there in the kitty for India as a full dialogue partner, and how can ASEAN or the countries of ASEAN benefit from this relationship?
ASEAN basically is not a trading bloc, neither is it a political bloc. We are a group of countries which think that we can learn from each other and by working together. In fact, we do learn from each other. For example, we noticed that ultra-nationalism involving nationalization of foreign assets and all that doesn't pay. Some of us did it and find that they lost out. Those who didn't did well, so we learned that it's better not to. By working with India, we find that India has got a lot of skills, a lot of scientific achievements, etc. And I think that as much as India is now being tapped by America and Europe, why not Malaysia? Why not ASEAN countries? So there is much to be exchanged by way of experience and skills in managing things. So I think it's a very good cooperation that we can see from the dialogue.
So there seems to be a view, and a growing view, that Islam and modernism are incompatible. And in fact, the inadequacies of various Muslim states are cited as to reinforce this particular argument. Do you accept that proposition?
I reject it entirely. You see, the Islam that we practice is the result of interpretations through the ages. And these interpretations change according to circumstance. Usually, people make interpretations because they have a vested interest in it. And some of these interpretations are wrong. We believe in Islam very strongly, but when we study the Quran and the Hadith, we find that the Quran said different things from what these people are saying. For example, there is a verse which says that you are a non-Muslim, I am a Muslim, you pray your way and I pray my way. But these people are saying that you are a non-Muslim, I can't tolerate you. But obviously the Quran says you can tolerate. In fact, you can go along with other people. So there are many interpretations which are wrong.
So you have a reputation of ticking off the West every now and again in your innings as Prime Minister. What is this difficulty that you have with the West?
The West is too fond of preaching to others when they need to be preaching to themselves. When they preach to others, they only see the faults of others. They never see their own faults. So they need to be told that they have faults too. And if people just sit by and let them preach, then you are going to get all mixed up because you think that they are right and you are wrong. We are not wrong, we are right. They are wrong sometimes. If they are not right, then you should say so. If they are right, we can say so.
I was reading a book with your co-authored by your Japanese colleague in which you talk of the decline of the West. Now, why do you think is the West in decline?
The West have always presumed that material things determine human happiness. The idea of communism, for example, is based on the material distribution or the wealth distribution, equal distribution of wealth. But that does not contribute towards human happiness. You must have the spiritual as well. And the West has lost much of that spiritual belief. It doesn't matter, it may be Christianity or whatever, but they have lost that. So they're almost floating around without any direction because they don't know where they come from and where they are going to, excepting to count money. And that is not going to give them any pleasure after some time.
You obviously are a visionary. Now, what is your vision of the world in, say, 25 or 30 years? Where will the United States be? Where will the West be?
That's very difficult to answer, but I certainly see a great mixing of people. More people will migrate, and there will be no such thing as a single ethnic country. Every country will have a multiracial population. People will move because they can move. It's easy to move, unlike in the old days when you can close your borders. Borders cannot be closed the way we closed before.
Sir, do you see yourself as a Malaysian leader, a leader of ASEAN grouping, an Asian leader, or a global statesman?
I see myself as a Malay leader who's been accepted by Malaysians as a Malaysian leader. That is all.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I've taken a great deal of your time.